Okay, let's dive right into a massive mindset shift that is literally reshaping the business world today. We're unpacking the newly updated ISO 55000-2024 standard. Now, I know an international standards document might sound, well, kind of dry, but in this explainer, we're going to see how it actually represents a profound transformation in how organizations operate. It's moving us away from just owning and maintaining things to systematically realizing long-term value. So today, we're tackling the entire document, taking its rigorous definitions, those core principles, and the real-world outcomes, and turning them into a clear, actionable roadmap. To kick things off, I've got a seemingly simple question that's probably going to challenge some preconceived notions you might have about organizational resources. Seriously, take a second and think about this. What actually is an asset? If your mind immediately jumps to, say, a piece of heavy machinery, or maybe a company laptop, or even a bank account, you aren't wrong, but you're really only seeing a tiny fraction of the picture, according to this standard. Here is our roadmap for getting there. Part 1, the mindset shift. Part 2, decoding the vocabulary. Part 3, 3 core principles. And finally, Part 4, outcomes and benefits. All right, Section 1, the mindset shift, breaking preconceived notions of value. See, an asset isn't just a physical thing, like a bunch of cars on an assembly line. It can literally be a forest. The standard explicitly states that assets can be physical or non-physical. So yeah, it could be a bridge, for sure, but it could also be a piece of software, your company's intellectual property, or those environmental resources we just talked about. It can even be a whole asset system where multiple different assets interact together. So the crucial takeaway is basically this. An asset is defined purely by its ability to deliver value, either potential or actual value to an organization. It's not so much about what a thing is made of, right? It's about what it does over its entire life cycle. From that very first spark of ideation all the way to the end of its life, an asset is simply a vehicle for value. Moving right along to Section 2, decoding the vocabulary. From owning things to coordinated systems. Because look, having an asset is one thing, but taking coordinated action across an entire organization to actually extract value from it, well, that requires deliberate human effort. It is absolutely not passive. You don't just buy something and, cross your fingers and hope for the best. We've really got to draw a line between the static entity, the asset itself, and asset management. The standard defines asset management as the coordinated activity of an organization to realize value from assets. And honestly, here's the kicker. Realizing that value normally involves a super careful balancing act. You're constantly juggling costs, risks, opportunities, and performance benefits. It's this dynamic, ongoing process. And here is how that hierarchy builds up. You start with your asset. Then, you perform asset management to realize its value. And to make sure that activity isn't just totally chaotic or stuck in silos, you oversee the whole shebang with an overarching asset management system. That top layer, the asset management system, is your vital framework. It establishes the policies, the objectives, the processes. It's basically this interconnected structure of plans and roles that keeps everybody on the same page. It transforms asset management from some one-off project into a repeatable, highly reliable business function. And what's crazy is this system isn't just looking at the present. It extends deep into the future. A mature system uses data, modeling, digital twinning, and AI to take predictive action. It literally allows organizations to head off failures before they ever even happen and maximize that future value. Okay, Section 3, 3 core principles, the foundation of the asset management mindset. These are the big 3 principles outlined in the document: value, alignment, and leadership. And these 3 things are exactly what shift this whole concept from a dry rulebook into a totally dynamic, active methodology for organizational success. Let's break them down. Principle number 1 is value. Value is your North Star here. The standard notes that this principle requires clear contributions to organizational objectives, plus a totally transparent view of the entire life cycle of the asset. We're talking about considering both the positive and negative impacts, the financial and non-financial stuff, over the long haul. If an activity isn't helping the asset realize value for the organization, you really have to stop and ask yourself why you're even doing it. Then we have principle number 2, alignment. This requires vertical coordination, so linking the top-level organizational purpose all the way down to specific daily technical tasks. But it also means horizontal coordination, meaning finance, operations, and engineering actually collaborate without friction across the asset's life cycle. And principle number 3 is leadership. Look, without leadership establishing clear directions, roles, and a collaborative culture, the entire system is just going to fall flat. And the standard emphasizes that this requires sustained commitment at all levels. Actually, let me emphasize that. It's not just the CEO signing a piece of paper. It's top management providing the actual resources and empowering people throughout the whole organization to execute the plan. Which brings us to Section 4, Outcomes and Benefits, why the standard is vital for modern organizations. Think of it kind of like a crew of firefighters coordinating a response. One of the primary outcomes of this standard is assurance. Just like that fire crew relies on their system, their training, and their gear to manage a massive crisis, an organization relies on its asset management system to systematically identify, evaluate, and control business risks, assuring stakeholders that resources are deployed effectively. The standard groups the primary outcomes into 3 main buckets: assurance, which we just covered; adaptability, meaning the ability to rapidly respond to internal and external changes; and sustainability. And that last one is huge. The standard defines sustainability as meeting present needs without compromising future generations. It essentially forces organizations to look way beyond short-term fixes and consider the environmental, social, and economic impacts over the total life cycle of their assets. When you put all of this together, the trickle-down effects are massive. The tangible benefits explicitly listed in the document range from improved financial performance, like, boosting ROI without sacrificing long-term goals, to far greater stakeholder confidence. It leads to more evident corporate social responsibility, and it provides demonstrated compliance with legal and regulatory requirements. It basically builds a more resilient, efficient, and ethical organization. So I want to leave you with this final thought, straight from the core philosophy of ISO 55000. Are you merely tracking your assets on a spreadsheet somewhere, or do you have a coordinated system to actively realize value from them over their entire life cycle? It really is a profound shift in perspective. Start looking at the resources around you differently. Thanks so much for exploring this standard with me today.